Okay, so we all hear this term energy transition thrown around constantly, right? But what's actually happening on the ground? Well, today we're going to dig into the DNV Energy Transition Outlook. It's this massive global forecast, and it tells a really fascinating story. A story of this incredible, unstoppable tech revolution that is running headfirst into some very, very real-world problems.
And look, this report does not pull any punches. It kicks things off with this incredibly blunt statement right from the CEO. And let's be clear, this isn't some far-off warning about what could happen. No, this is them telling us this is where we are right now. It really just sets the tone, you know? It shows you how urgent this whole conversation is.
All right, so first up, the sobering scorecard. Let's start with that reality check. Before we get into all the exciting stuff, we've got to be honest about just how big of a mountain we're trying to climb here.
So the report is just brutally honest here. It says the chance to keep warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, yeah, that's pretty much gone. And they're not saying this is some, worst case possibility. They're saying this is now our most likely future. So the whole game has changed. The goal now is to get to zero emissions as fast as we possibly can, because from here on out, every single tenth of a degree we can shave off, it matters. A lot.
But, and this is a huge but, at the exact same time all this doom and gloom is happening, there's also this incredible, unstoppable revolution going on. And this is a force that, honestly, no politician or global crisis can really stop.
And it really all boils down to these three game changers: solar, onshore wind, and batteries. I mean, the costs for these have just fallen off a cliff. They've dropped so much, so fast, that in more and more places, they're just flat out cheaper than fossil fuels. No subsidies, no mandates, just pure economics. That is the engine pushing this whole thing forward.
And that brings us to maybe the most important point. Because of those crazy low costs, the direction we're headed is basically set in stone. The transition isn't just an environmental wish anymore, it's an economic inevitability. The world is going to switch to renewables because it's just becoming the cheapest, smartest thing to do. So the question isn't if it will happen, it's how fast can we make it happen.
Okay, so that brings us to the big but in this whole story, right? If the tech is there and the money makes sense, then what's the holdup? What's slowing us down? Well, it turns out the biggest roadblocks aren't technological anymore. The problems aren't in the lab, they're in parliament buildings and at international summits. What we're seeing is a world that's getting more divided, not less. There's political friction, policies that change every few years. It's like everyone's trying to build the same thing, but they're all using different, incompatible blueprints.
And this is just a perfect example of that friction. You've got the United States, where energy policy can do a complete 180 every 4 to 8 years, pulling out of global agreements, rolling back rules, and then, at the same time, you have China installing a mind-blowing 56% of all new solar on the planet, basically single-handedly making clean tech cheaper for everyone. The two biggest players are pulling in completely opposite directions.
This kind of division leads to something the report calls technology blocks. And it's a really simple idea. Instead of the whole world working together, sharing breakthroughs and making things like advanced nuclear cheaper for everybody, we're splitting into rival teams. You've got the OECD countries on one side, China and Russia on the other. And they're saying, we're not using your tech. What does that do? It just slows everything down and keeps prices high for everyone.
So, all this political friction, these competing blocks, it all leads to one of the biggest, most physical roadblocks we face, our actual infrastructure. The grids, the wires, the transformers, they just can't keep up with the pace of change.
Think about it. We're trying to electrify everything. Our cars, how we heat our homes, all of our factories. That means our global demand for electricity is projected to more than double. We're basically asking our power grids, which are decades old, to handle a tidal wave of new demand they were never ever built for.
And this right here shows you the crazy result. It makes this invisible problem really, really clear. Imagine you've built a brand new solar farm. You're ready to start generating clean power. Well, you have to get in line to connect to the grid. Back in 2008, that wait was under 2 years. By 2022, it was 5 years. And today, in some areas, you could be waiting almost a decade. It's insane. We have all this cheap, clean power ready to go, and it's just sitting there, stuck in a massive traffic jam.
So what does this mean for you, for me, for all of us? It creates this massive paradox. The actual cost of making clean electricity from a solar panel or a wind turbine is getting cheaper and cheaper, but the cost of getting that electricity to your house through our creaky old grid, that's skyrocketing. And you can probably guess who ends up footing that bill.
This chart just lays it all out. What the report found is that the rising costs to upgrade and maintain the grid are on track to wipe out almost half of the savings we should be getting from cheap renewables. So the wholesale price for power, the raw cost, is falling. But the delivery charges, the grid fees on your bill, those are going up and up and up. It's just eating away at all that progress.
Okay, so beyond the grid, there's another set of challenges. Let's talk about the hard problems. These are the giant parts of our economy where, frankly, we just don't have an easy, cheap, clean replacement yet. Let's start with flying. Demand for air travel is set to double by 2060. But even in the best-case scenario, sustainable fuels will only cover maybe 20% of what's needed. The bottom line is, there's just no cheap, easy way to replace jet fuel right now.
And it's the exact same story for international shipping. To clean up those massive container ships that move basically everything we buy, you need totally new, really expensive fuels like green ammonia. And that doesn't just mean new ship engines. It means rebuilding ports and refueling infrastructure all around the globe. It's a colossal undertaking.
And then there's heavy industry. Think steel and cement. Here the problem is even trickier. A huge chunk of their emissions doesn't even come from the energy they burn. It comes from the chemical reaction of making the stuff itself. It's called process emissions. So you can't just swap in a clean fuel and call it a day. You need brand new technologies like green hydrogen or massive, expensive carbon capture systems to even begin to tackle it.
So you take the unstoppable tech, you add in the political roadblocks, the grid bottleneck, and these super hard industries, and what do you get? You get to the single most important message in this whole report. The pace, the speed of this transition is absolutely everything. Honestly, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this phrase. The direction is set, but the pace is not. The economics mean we are moving to a clean energy world. That part's not really in doubt. But how fast we get there, that is completely up for grabs. And that pace, that's what's going to decide what our future looks like.
So these are the new speed limits on our journey. It's not the technology anymore. Today, what's slowing us down is policy that flips and flops, countries not working together, and an infrastructure that's just completely overwhelmed.
And we have to remember why this speed matters so much. Okay, maybe the 1.5 degree target is out of reach, but the fight to land at 1.6 degrees instead of 2, that is more important than ever. Every fraction of a degree we prevent is a win. It means fewer extreme weather events, a more stable world, a safer future for everyone. That's why the pace is everything.
And so that really leaves us with a final, powerful question. The report makes it crystal clear. We have the tools. The technology to go faster is here, right now. So the biggest hurdles aren't technical anymore. They're us. They're about our politics, our ability to cooperate, and whether we can make the choice to get past the obstacles that we ourselves have created.